Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm Gus.
We received some early copies of State of Decay 2 from Microsoft. This is the game that's coming out next week from Undead Labs. It's the follow-on to, wait for it, State of Decay.
Innovative,
yes. This is a zombie survival game. It's kind of unique in concept in that it is a game where you don't play as a specific character. You play as a community. Mm-hmm. So who you're playing can change at any time. And if
who you're playing could die.
Yeah, if you get them killed, that's it. They're dead. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you then have to go loot your zombie ex-community members to get the good stuff off them.
Yeah, you don't want to get the zombie's not going to use that stuff, right?
Right. So this game is a sequel. They've done a lot to build on the previous games.
Previous game came out 5 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, so I say previous game, and some of it works, and I think for me, some of it does not. We try and approach a lot of these discussions from different perspectives. I was not a original State of Decay player. You played a ton of State of Decay.
I loved State of Decay.
Right, so we're coming at this kind of different directions, just to give you the heads up so you know where we are coming from.
Yes.
I didn't like the game. In its current state, I feel like it's got potential. There's a lot of systems in it that I like.
Yeah, I think the game was okay. It's not the best game in the world, but I didn't dislike it. I have fun playing it. But there's a lot that's missing. And if you played the first State of Decay, I feel like you're kind of ready for that. The first State of Decay kind of had some buggy issues, and I think just kind of abruptly ended, seemingly mid-story. And some DLC kind of addresses that later. But so jumping into State of Decay 2, I was already kind of in that mindset, like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. And if you're approaching from that mindset, you're like, all right, this is about where I expect it to be.
Yeah, if your expectations are in the right place, I guess. This is an indie game. It's made by a smaller studio, but it's being published by Microsoft, which I feel like is a double-edged sword for the developer. On the one hand, it's great to have that kind of support as an indie developer, to have someone help you market and promote a game and distribute it. That's all really great. On the flip side, you get the same kind of issues you had with some games like No Man's Sky is an example of another indie title that was then assisted and marketed by a platform, in that case PlayStation, and people tend to get they tend to expect more from games that are marketed by platforms.
You expect more of like a AAA experience with that.
Yeah. They're at least pricing this one at $30. So they're not pricing it as a AAA game.
Yeah, I think that's a huge benefit to this game. I think if this game was $60, I'd be very upset. Yeah. But I think at a $30 price point, you're a lot more in line with setting your expectations where they should be.
And it is also a game that's going to be on Xbox Game Pass day one. Mm-hmm. So the game is actually out now if you buy the Ultimate
Collector's Edition, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I lose track of exactly what different editions are called across different games, but the Ultimate Edition gives you early access now, so there are people playing it, and you can get a more wide, varied set of opinions from people who are playing that. But it will be out day one when the game officially releases next Tuesday. Yeah.
I felt like the game holds your hand a lot of times when it doesn't need to, and then other times gives you no instruction at all. I think that might have been my biggest gripe with it.
Okay.
I felt like I played the game for a long time, and it kept telling me when I ducked or when I was sneaking to hold down left trigger and X to stealthily kill a zombie. Even after I'd killed hundreds of zombies that way.
I felt like that never went away.
It's still there, for all I know. I just tune it out now. But there's other systems and other things that you're not given any instruction on. Like, I didn't realize you could open your car door and hit zombies when driving until I saw my AI passengers doing it.
And that's a great move.
That's a great feature.
That's basically what co-op turns into, is driving around just like with wings on the doors, just swatting zombies. I agree with you that there's some things they hold your hand on, some things they don't. There is a learning curve to this game. Mm-hmm. Go into this game, if you want to play it, expecting your first community to fail.
But learn from those failures.
Yes, you are learning a lot in that early time. And failing is part of the game in this case. It's a survival game. It comes with the territory, so people who get into survival games, I think, at least get that. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of things that they'll tell you a little bit about, but not super explain. So if you are new to it, you make mistakes that can be very, very costly up front. As an example, the first community that I was playing with, I was running low on food. I set up an outpost with a coffee shop. Turns out that doesn't give you food. It gives you some morale, and you can make coffee, but I didn't need coffee. I needed food, and I'd spent my influence points setting up that outpost. So I had a much, much, much harder time than shutting that one down and then going and setting up an outpost somewhere that I could get food units.
Yeah, and there's other ways to get food too, but you have to scavenge it in the world. You have to find a food rucksack.
Yes.
And then bring those back.
And it's just specifically finding some kind of food in the world. That's not going to count. It has to be a rucksack, and it has to go into your supplies.
I think that was maybe one of the most confusing aspects of the game when you first start. Is there's different there's different resources. There's, I think, medicine, food, building materials, fuel. There might be more.
There's I think at least one
ammunition.
More. Yes.
And so if you collect those individual items, so we'll use food as the example here. If your community needs food, you either need to have an outpost that can make food, or you need to have someone go and find a food rucksack and bring it back. If someone goes out into the world and finds food and brings that back and puts it in storage, that doesn't count.
Right. So that part's a little confusing. Same with meds were another resource that I found myself very short on very early on. There's a new thing in this game that was not in the original State of Decay. It's this blood plague. So there's this other type of zombie, which you can tell them immediately because instead of glowing yellow eyes, they've got glowing red eyes, and they're just covered in this gross, pussy, blood-looking stuff.
Pussy.
And if they hit you, then you have a meter that starts to increase with every attack, and you can eventually contract the blood plague. If you get the blood plague, then you've got this very limited window of time where you can get a cure for that. You can check someone into the infirmary to try to halt.
If you have to build an infirmary at your base.
Yes. That's the important part. If you got the infirmary, but that also comes early with.
They
the
tell
tutorial,
you to make one. This is part of the tutorial.
You'll probably be fine there, and then you have to manufacture this blood plague. This is interesting. Before I played the game, it felt like the blood plague was going to be a much bigger deal, much more difficult to cure, much more of a panic mode situation. But I found that as I was encountering plague zombies around the map, I would kill one, and then some of them would drop a sample.
Right.
And you need a certain number of samples in order to create a cure. And so I was just encountering enough of them that I had cures on hand. So it wasn't the kind of panic situation I thought.
It just becomes another meter to manage. So normally when you're in combat, you have to manage your stamina and your health. So if you do melee attacks, it makes your stamina go down. If you run, it makes your stamina go down. And so over time, if you run out of stamina, your melee attacks become very weak. Then if you switch to firearms, they're very loud and they attract more zombies. So then there's also the health, which everyone is familiar with that, health in a video game. But then the blood plague is just a separate meter, which isn't always on the HUD until you have blood plague attacks against you, and then that meter pops up, and you have to keep an eye on that too.
Yeah.
It's just another management.
Yeah, I do like a lot of the systems in the game. I feel like there's a cool game in here. I had so much trouble with the technical issues, which I'll go more into
in
a few minutes, that made me want to just put the game down and wait until they patch some things, which they've already been working on. They've already released a Day Zero patch, I guess, that it came out ahead of the Ultimate Edition getting access. So some of the bugs are fixed, but I feel like it needs some more polishing still. But the systems in the game, I enjoy a lot of them. You set up a base, and then you can use certain plots to create additional facilities. So
outposts. I see. Oh,
in the base.
Yeah.
So you can set up the infirmary, and that way you can create meds and you can treat injuries. You can set up a workshop, so you can salvage weapon parts. You can set up a garden, so you can generate some food units. And depending on what you build, you'll get different things for the base. Also, what base you select has different attributes. So you can move your base.
Yeah, I kind of want to get into that. So I felt like the game started seemingly with a very strong narrative. So when you first start the game, you're allowed to choose which character you're going to play, and it's like 2 characters.
Yeah, you choose a duo.
Right, you choose a duo, and there's like 4 different duos. I think you can choose from.
There's like here's friends, here's brothers, here is 2 people who met and fell in love. There's a couple different groups, a couple different dynamics, and they also each have their own specialties.
Yes. So then you start, and then you go through kind of like an introductory, almost like a tutorial area where you learn how to fight. It seems like there's a story being built.
Yeah, you learn how to loot stuff and find resources.
You get through that, you meet some NPCs, and they say, well, I guess ultimately they're characters you can't control. But they say, where do you want to go? There's 3 options to set up our base.
Do you want to go to the foothills?
Right.
Do you want to go to the plateau? Or do you want to go to the valley?
Right. And you pick your choice. I was like, oh, this seems like this is really going to be very story-driven. But it seems like you get to your area. In my case, I chose the plateau. And then it's like, that's the end, really the end of the story.
That's like this, and then, great, go survive.
Right. Then it's like, then you have your outpost like, oh, okay, now we're just going to grind this out. And I think that's kind of where the Blood Plague and the Plague Hearts come into play. Like you go and Plague Hearts are like zombie bases that you have to go and destroy. And I think that's kind of like your overwhelming narrative.
Yeah, like the goal being to clear all the Plague Hearts in the town. And depending on which of the maps you chose, based on those 3 options, they'll be in different places. You'll have different buildings, different hazards. So there's some cool stuff there. But you're right, the story ends with the tutorial, more or less. On the bright side, you don't really have to worry about spoilers with this game. It's not anything like that. It's very much a gameplay-driven game.
And it autosaves frequently. So if you mess up or you do something you're unhappy with, you can't just like reload a save, or you can't power down. You might be able to power down and power back up, but chances are no. Like what happens, and that's you're gonna live with the consequences of that.
Yeah, and that is cool for a game like this. It's something that they build into expecting. It's why you play as a community. You can build up this character and get their stats maxed. Once you max them in a certain ability, you can choose a specialization. So that's cool. So maybe you get one in combat. It gets all the way top. And you can choose to specialize in bladed weapons, in which case you get this new ability to like sweep the leg, and if you use a bladed melee weapon, you have stronger attacks with that. Or you can choose blunt weapons, and that way you can take a bat, and that will do more damage, and you get a different attack there.
It's like Grand Slam. I think you can hit like a big, wide array of enemies.
Yeah. So it's cool that you can build this character up. You can promote them to a leader. They can be your main guy.
But you don't want to do that.
And then they die. And then you have to pick up with someone else. So it actually makes a lot of sense to balance your time between members of the community. And the game drives you to do that.
I think they do a good job of that. Over time, your characters get fatigued. They need to sleep, so you got to put them to bed, and then you got to choose someone else to play. So I think
they have an injury. They need to recover.
Right. They kind of encourage you to spread that around.
Yeah. And it is cool, too, that they at least start you with a good range of abilities. You've got a medic. You've got a soldier. And then you've got your duo as well, whatever you decided to pick. So that, I think, is pretty friendly. But then it drops you in and says, good luck.
GLHF.
Yeah. And all that is, so yeah, expect first community fail. There just be used to the learning curve. And you can have a lot of fun with it. I did have some fun, but technically I had so many issues.
I've read a lot of people having crazy technical issues with the game. And I'll admit, I've had a few, but I feel like I've been lucky. I haven't had an overwhelming number. The biggest one I told you about, is when I'm in my base building screen, you are supposed to back out of that menu with B, but when I enter that screen, I can't back out with B. I have to hit the equivalent of the start button, which acts as B.
But you said the B button used to work.
It used to work, and then it no longer works on that screen.
Right.
Now it's like remapped to a different button.
Yeah, I have had a number of different issues. There's the usual jank. This is kind of a janky game. The first one was a little bit janky as well. Not a ton of polish. Some like weird things would happen with vehicles, that kind of thing. That was pretty common. But the technical issues that I had in this involved things like the HUD would just start flickering. And I didn't know why. I didn't know how to stop it. I could try exiting the game and then coming back in, and then it would work for a little bit, and then it would start flickering again. I never knew what set it off. I was driving through one area, and just suddenly half the polygons the ground was gone, and the rest of the polygons were just pillars into infinity in the sky. And so I could walk through it, but I had no idea what it is that I was looking at. Left the area, came back, same problem. So there were issues there.
Not related to technical issues, but it was something you said reminded me. You talked about these polygons you had to walk through and you couldn't see. Night is dark.
Night's very dark.
And night is dark and full of terrors. It's you have a flashlight, so when the time progresses in the game, in daytime you go around, and then at night the sun sets. Obviously, you know what night is.
And at night is shorter in the game. It's maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's dark. Even when you turn your flashlight on your character, it's difficult to see what's going on in that game.
And it's scary because nighttime is when the zombies are more active. So you're more likely to encounter the special zombies. There are different types of zombies. There's slow zombies. There are faster zombies. We had one of the developers visiting a few weeks ago who showed us the game and said that they like to think of it as freshness, that the fresh zombies are faster before you get a lot of the muscles and tendons breaking down, and then they slow down. But then there's also the special zombies. So you've got a screamer that'll attract more zombies. You've got the bloater that'll come up to you and then just explode in this cloud of poisonous gas. You've got this juggernaut that's just this huge thing, and you do not want to encounter one of those at night. And so there are these special zombies, and if it's dark, you don't know where things are, so it gets more difficult to avoid them.
And then on your mini-map, you have a little circular mini-map in the corner. Special zombies and hordes will show up there. But the most terrifying thing is when you're walking around at night and your character audibly has a voice line that says, "Oh, there's a screamer over there, want to avoid that." And you look at your mini-map and there's nothing on the mini-map. You're like, "Oh, fuck, where is it?"
Yeah, so you just gotta go.
Yeah, you kind of just gotta hunker down and hope for the best.
Yeah, so that is its own challenge. I think it's kind of cool. I like the day-night cycle. I like that your characters respond to that by getting fatigued if you spend too much time out. There are some things that are helpful in the game. Vehicles are a big one. They have their own resource, which is fuel, and you can run out of that pretty quick. So I don't know about you, I found that I would run out of fuel and just leave a vehicle and go get something else. But of course, as you run through all the resources in a map, that will start to change because then you just have a bunch of cars with no fuel.
And then it's going to screw you at an inopportune moment.
Yeah. But one of the things that you can do to make the game a little bit easier, the rucksacks are a huge resource that you're going to be scavenging for a lot. And you can only carry one rucksack at a time.
It's a little annoying.
That's a little annoying. But you can choose to take one of your community members with you. So you can then switch to them and equip them with a rucksack. So you can try to get a couple more things. And if you have a vehicle, you can put them in the trunk.
I didn't know that.
You can do that.
Again,
so you
another example of it not telling you.
You can store a couple more things. But yeah, it is something that comes up. You may encounter that just like as a bit of a tool.
I should have known that because I had during one mission I had to help someone go get a rucksack that was in a truck that they had abandoned.
Yeah, so maybe just a couple hints there, but a lot of that is just about the discovery.
I want to add a caveat there. So you can normally switch to your other community members unless you're in the middle of a mission.
And then you cannot, yes.
Yeah, you can, but it'll tell you will abandon your mission if you switch to the other character. So sometimes your hands are tied.
Yeah. But it is helpful as well if you take someone, or you can do co-op.
Yes. There
is co-op in this game. There was not in the first game, so this is an addition. It's not the perfect solution. The pie-in-the-sky dream of co-op in this game would obviously be that you play a community together, and you can divide and conquer. So you can go off, do totally different things, and contribute jointly to a community. That's not the way this works. The way this co-op works is you drop into someone else's community. You kind of bring your community with you in that while you're in the base, you can switch between your community members, but you don't have the same kind of access to your base facilities. You are using someone else's base. There are some things that you can loot, some things you can't loot. They do that as a protection so that you can't invite someone into your game. They take all your resources and then fuck off back to their game with all your stuff and leave you high and dry. They protect you from that, and that's good. But the real, I think probably the biggest downside of the co-op, the biggest limitation at least, is that there is a tether. You have to be within a certain range of your host player. And it's not bad. Like, you don't have to be a couple feet away. You can go off. It's like 100 feet, 100 yards. I'm not great with distances. You can go a ways, though. Like, think like a block or two. But that's about the extent of it. So you can't send someone off to explore the rest of the map while you build facilities in your base. That won't work. You have to pretty much stick together. It's designed for, hey, drop in, play with me, let's go destroy a bunch of plague hearts and infestations. I could really use that.
It's like being the companion, almost.
Yeah, and they can get in your vehicle, you can drive them around. We had some fun with that. Playing some co-op had weird issues with some vehicles not liking the co-op person. They would just fling around inside the vehicle, really weird. Other vehicles were fine. That's part of the bugginess that you just sort of encounter with the game, and you get used to it. Do you have any final thoughts?
I think if someone was a fan of the original game, they'll probably enjoy this as well. Like I said, it's fine. It definitely has issues. It definitely has some polish that it needs. It's, I think, at $30. If you like the first game, you should check it out.
So you'd say play it.
I'd say play it. Yeah, I mean, but if you're, I think if you're like a casual fan, maybe wait for a patch to come out and smooth some of that stuff over.
Yeah, I'm on the wait side. I think there's fun stuff in the game. I think that it's got a lot of potential. And I want to see it do well because I think that there's just a great core in there that could be enjoyable, but the technical issues definitely got in the way for me. I'd recommend waiting until they patch some of that stuff up or go the Game Pass route.
Yeah.
It's going to be Xbox Game Pass, then you're talking $10 a month. There's a free trial, so you can play it, have a good time, and not worry about the full investment. It is only $30, so it's not like it's going to break the bank for most people anyway, but I still think it's worth the wait unless you're very forgiving of technical issues.
Yeah, sometimes I think technical issues are funny. The reason I started playing PUBG is I saw funny technical glitch videos. I was like, oh, I want to play that.
Yeah, it comes down to whether the technical glitches are like additive and random but don't change too much, or if they affect the game for you.
Right, yeah.
And they affected the game for me, so that's why I'm a wait on it.
I get you.
All right. Let us know if you're planning on checking out State of Decay 2 from Undead Labs. It's coming out for Xbox One and PC next week. If you get the Ultimate Edition, it is available now. It'll be day one on Xbox Game Pass as well, so that's another way that you can play it. So yes, let us know if you're planning on getting it, if what you're planning on doing. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you like this video. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe to the Know.
Give it some gas, will you?